It's been over 336 days since the last DLC update to Red Dead Online, and this was the Blood Money update, which of course added crimes, contracts, and opportunities, along with a few surprises saved for the drip feed like Call to Arms, Halloween passes, Halloween Call to Arms, Hardcore Telegram missions, and Christmas-themed Call to Arms. But in 2022, we have seen absolutely nothing from Rockstar Games in regards to Red Dead Online content. We've actually just seen less of a commitment by those on the team in general, while our weekly event changes turned into monthly events. There's been less communication on their social media in general, and pretty soon, Red Dead Online's bigger brother, GTA Online, will be gearing up for a massive DLC this summer. So with all that in mind, what else could we get in Red Dead in the meantime that wouldn't take very much work or resources at all? I mean, something entirely new seems off the table right now, but what about story mode content that just hasn't been used in online yet? This is what we will be discussing today. There's so much that's unused, while Rockstar has taken features, mechanics, and some content and brought it over into the online. The single-player bank of ideas and content is still pretty much untapped in many regards. Now, I asked my community what pieces of RDR2 story mode they would like to see added to online, and we'll be going over some of the most popular responses. But before we begin, if you enjoyed this video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it, and if you want to stay up to date with everything Red Dead Redemption 2 and Red Dead Online, consider hitting that subscribe button with your bell notifications turned on. So jumping in, Detective Joe says hair growth mechanics, more clothing, and PC clothing added, photo mode, and one day I hope they add the Rockstar editor. The hair growth mechanics would actually be interesting because we already have a ton of hairstyles in game, but if you could have different lengths for those hairstyles and you can use the hair pomade to actually grow your hair out more or whatever the case is, that would be pretty interesting to see in the online, as we do have that in story mode. Story mode's photo mode is actually much better than online's as well, and of course, while you can't freeze time in the online world, it would just be good to have more photo mode upgrades and features and all that. And of course, the Rockstar editor, that's just something that's not in the game right now, but we would all love to see that, right? Dina Max says, definitely the ability to have a house, be a rancher, or the ability to rob stores. These are some of the classics that we want to see in this game, right? We've been able to be a rancher in the story mode of Red Dead Redemption 2 in the epilogue and be a farmhand and do little activities, and while it just added to that story and it wasn't like this central theme of what was going on at the time, it was just little like side activities you could do as a player in the story mode. Having that in online is definitely something people are seeking, and it's sought after for Red Dead Online. So seeing that added to the game would also be quite interesting. Maru says train robberies, the Blackshire horse, and the horse theft business of the brothers, and heists. Of course, we all want to see heists and train robberies. That's a very typical one. I think pretty much everyone wants to see that, right? But speaking of the horses, like the Blackshire horse in the story mode, or specifically the horse theft business of Clive and Clay. You go to Saint Denis and online and they say bring back some horses here in the future and we will have, you know, some business opportunities for you later on. You just basically, it made the player think that when they leveled up, they could go back there and do some activities. But now with Red Dead being out for almost 4 years at this point and Red Dead Online being almost 4 years old, we still do not have those activities to date. And so seeing that would also be incredibly awesome, just because I think we've had some leaks in the past. We've discussed it. There's potential for horse and wagon fencing, but of course none of that has come to fruition in online yet, but we just have to wait and see what happens in the future. Andy Holland says all of the clothing options, they're already made. Rockstar just has to drop them in. I like bank and train robberies and the option to purchase and build a home, as John did. Just going back to the clothing here, both with things in the Wheeler Rawson and Company catalog, but also all the Trapper clothing, which we're going to get into a little bit later. A lot of the clothing at the Trapper in the Naturalist update in Red Dead Online isn't really stuff from the story mode. Some of it is like themed similarly because of course it's all animal pelts and things like that, animal hides, but we do not have the exact same clothing. We don't have the cool panther cloaks. I feel like that was such a missed opportunity with the Naturalist update when it came out. I thought maybe that would be drip feed, but it never came into the game at all. So having all those clothing options coming into the online would also be nice. I'm sure there's some limitations on what Rockstar can do because maybe it could like break the servers or whatever the case is. The only example I want to point out here is with the Benbow jacket. There is a version in the Pursuer outfit in the story mode, and it features pretty much the same thing as a Benbow jacket. It's the same model, which is limited stock clothing on online. We have it, but it doesn't have all the tassels that are attached to it. It's just basically one-dimensional tassels that are glued on, and they're not moving around like your character in story mode actually does, because of course in story mode, it's, I guess, a little bit, it's a little bit easier to have all that stuff programmed in versus online where they're going to need to sacrifice some quality here and there. It's the same reason why the grass quality looks higher in the story mode compared to online, but that is something I want to see all those clothing options. Same with Jake, he says all of the trapper sets and clothing. Also, the treasure maps in story mode were way better, where you have to find a specific landmark or location and find it. Also, chores around your camp, maybe future properties could be neat. There's many more, but these are just some examples. And I want to focus in on those treasure maps just very briefly here as well, because that's something that I never really heard before. You know, we have the treasure maps in story mode where you actually open up a map and it marks, you know, a landmark. You're not going to be able to find it just by looking overhead at the map to find the location, like in online, where the game basically tells you, look here, X marks the spot, you know, just go to this location and a few locations around it in this little cone or this circle, and then you'll find your treasure. In the story mode, you really need to analyze your surroundings, travel around the map, and then when you recognize a tree that looks a certain way and there's a mountain in the background, you know you're close to that treasure, because that is what the map hinted towards. And so having really maybe valuable treasure in online where you need to do that same thing, that would also be really, really cool to see. It would just make treasure hunting more immersive, in my opinion. Of course, Benin says all clothes and all gang member horses. We definitely need some of those story mode horses in online. Rockstar wants to keep a few of them, obviously exclusive to the story mode. Like when Red Dead Redemption 2 released on PC, story mode got a couple of other improvements and upgrades and content, and a few of them were like limited edition horses, just limited to the story mode. We were never going to get them online, but there are other horses just from the story mode that were added from day one of the game releasing that we don't have in online, like Javier's Appaloosa. That would be, you know, there's similar ones in online, but they're not the same coats and they're not the same colors. And so having that exact one as well, I think would be a real treat for players. Kian Moore says more gambling like blackjack, dominoes, and finger knife games like 5-finger fillet. The only sort of gambling and poker activities we have is poker itself, which obviously, you know, I'm sure Rockstar hasn't added it yet because they saw the data. People aren't playing much poker in online. Maybe you guys playing a posse or something. I know I haven't played in a long time, but I would like to see some other activities, and they should just make it worth their while. The biggest problem with poker right now and online is if when you matchmake with randoms, you can't actually make money from poker. You can only bet, like, what is it, $5 or something? That's nothing in the grand scheme of things. So they need to make poker a more lucrative activity, and also, you know, potentially you're going to lose a lot of hands, so you're not going to just be constantly making money. They need to look at those sides of the game and try and make them more interactive and engaging and fun for players. But having blackjack, having dominoes, and 5-finger fillet, just because they're already in the story mode, they should be in online, right? Snacky says, I would kill for a satchel. This is something I can definitely vibe with here. I cannot believe we do not have satchels in online. We have the same satchel animations when your character, you know, kills and skins a rabbit or whatever, and you're putting one of those small pelts or you know, a bird carcass or whatever. They have the same animation, like they're putting that into their satchel, but it just disappears on the side of your character's waist. The fact that we can't have satchels in online, like the Legend of the East satchel or something, that would be really cool in my opinion. The animations are there. They can't actually add the physical satchel in. Maybe that would be too much or something. It would cause issues with clothing. I'm not sure why, but here we are, just no satchels in online. That's also something we need. And then one of the last things, TJ just says, everything that's available offline should be available online. It's simple. Yes, exactly. If there were no restrictions that needed to be made, I totally agree. And that's why I would love to see more single player content in Red Dead Online. But those are some of the most sought after changes players would like to see in Red Dead Online in regards to story mode content and features, but I would love to hear from you in the comments below. What do you think, and what would you like to see? I certainly have no hope or serious expectations that any of this would actually get added this summer, but I just wanted to make a fun little video to get brainstorming. Hopefully you all enjoyed the video today, and if you did, hopefully I earned your like on it. And of course, if you are new to my channel and you want to stay up to date with all the best Red Dead Online and Rockstar Games content, consider hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss out on a single thing we post here on the channel. We consistently talk about updates, news, information, tips, tricks, and even leaks, and we'll keep you guys updated here on the channel daily. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you want to follow me over on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected with me outside of YouTube, and you're more than welcome to ask me any questions on those platforms. You can follow me at HazardousHDTV, and all my social media links can be found in the description down below. That being said, thank you all so much for watching. Hopefully you all have a fantastic day, and I will see you guys in the next Red Dead Online video. Adios, amigos.